So, in 1941, the World War II had been going on for 2 years, all right, or at least what's called now, what's known as the so-called Second World War. So, for 2 years, through propaganda and everything else, the American people had not been convinced that there was anything they had to do. That was over there, right? So they were in the right. They were correctly thinking. So something had to be done about that. Right? Pearl Harbor. Nobody died and nobody got hurt. That's fact. It's a setup. It was a setup. All right? What I'm going to show you now is I know a lot of you throwing your furniture out the window right now. You're all pissed off. Yet you're sitting there with no reason to believe that this happened, other than you've been told it happened. All right? If somebody throws some firecrackers outside and they go boom, there's an explosion and there's noise and bang, but it's just a gag. It's not a terrorist, So then you have to ask yourself, why do you believe this? Every time you see these World War II remembrances, you have these useful idiots in the front row with their little VA caps on. All Masons! Do you know anything about these organizations? And the politicians are always telling you what happened. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and take the pants off of this hoax as well. Because like I said when I started this thing, I'm going to take down the entire world. Sacred cow by sacred cow, if I have to. All right? A sacred cow is that one topic, man. Oh, yeah, great videos, man. Great channel. All of a sudden, that one sacred cow I tell you about. And you have to stop believing it. But yeah, you spent all these years believing things. So you're invested, man. Right? You're like, how dare this guy tell me that? That was the one thing I had on my shelf. You know what? I'm going to take it down and bust it. So don't fall in love with this place. Just roll through, watch the videos, and move along. Because I'm going to get to your sacred cow sooner or later. All right? And all of you that want to contend with me, make a video. Prove yourself. Prove it. Because as soon as I see you comment, as soon as there's the first inkling of negativity towards me in any way, because I'm not the subject, you will be dismissed post-haste. No, not even one tear given to your departure. Boo-hoo. So to begin, the USS Arizona. I've been there. I actually participated in a re-enlistment ceremony with a guy off the ship I was on when we had pulled in. We're going to take a look at it from the top. We're also going to take a look at the idea of this ship. This ship was on its last legs. It was a convert. This thing was served in World War I. It was launched in 1915. This thing was on its way out, as in every other sacrificed ship that they dropped in perfect placement, as you'll see. Perfect placement, they dropped these ships. Hold on. Now that's the Arizona. That would be it, right down there, under the old agua. And do you notice what they placed on top? That's the platform that you go to pay homage to death that didn't happen. Before we move on, I need to explain this to you. Okay. So you're born into this world. You're born into sin. You know right from wrong. Right? At the point of understanding, there's some point of understanding that you can go back and you can say, okay, I can remember from this point forward. Prior to that, that was called the Age of Innocence. Okay? But after that point, you were thrust into the life of sin. All right? Let me keep going. So you're thrown into sin, which literally means the teeth, the press, the sharp. It's called the world. And it's the world that you choose to believe in. Let me make another point on that. You know, when you walk in a room and people are talking about something, and it's all foreign because they're talking about characters and maybe in a TV show. And you walk in the room and you don't watch that TV show because, of course, all TV, all radio, all newspapers, magazines are a hoax. They're all part of the system, i.e. the world. So you don't participate in that subsection of the world. And people say, "Oh, what planet are you from? What hole have you been?" See, as if it's somehow I don't know, beneficial to be in that world over this world. And you can see that through all the different worlds out there. Now, the world you have to be aware of, and the biggest one is the modern Roman world, the world that's in charge right now. All right, that's throughout all world's armies and countries. There's nothing that happens without reason. All right, everything is planned out specifically. All right, so this is the 21st letter. All right, of any Semitic. That gives you your 777, or your Lucifer system, your fallen system. All right. In the modern order, I find this very interesting because it's the 13. In the modern order, that gives the idea of bad luck to 13, which is a flipped understanding. Once you know that, then you have 12 apostles, the 13 being Christ, 14 being Lucifer trying to put himself above the Christ, because you have one God, and that's Father in heaven, and you have one teacher, and that's Jesus Christ. All right, so continuing. What else are we going to talk about? The number 35, and this is very interesting. This is the largest number you can count on with using your fingers, using a base 6 system, which is 6, which is above the 5, which is the fallen knowledge given. You also see that it makes like the Rubik's Cube type setup, to where you can drop these pieces and create a whole structure, and that goes into the whole idea of sports, science, film, everything. It's all a concoction. It's all a concoction. All right. Continuing. Within a system called octal, and it's a base 8 system, saying 7 into 8 because it uses 0 to 7. This is the same thing, just another representation. All right. This would be the first language, I guess, or first mathematics, maybe, is a way of saying it. In order to talk about that, this would be all your prior to your modern systems. This is the old stuff. This is the stuff that actually would be, if you wanted a secure system that didn't need to do a lot of computing, let's say, you just needed it to work every time, you would actually stay with something quite simple like this. And this in the SG1, if you guys watched that. I have not, but it says right here that that's what they use, so I'm going to take that for what it is, because that makes sense, because it's an ancient language, right? And by the way, ancient doesn't mean less advanced, thinking wise, spiritually wise, all kinds of different. It doesn't mean anything. Just because you can sit in a little automobile and listen to a bunch of useless radio stations while you have a little cup holder, you know, and they had to ride with a horse, doesn't mean anything. All right, let's continue.
This is an emergency communication from the Hawaiian Defense Headquarters. The roar of the...
Okay, so looking at the back of this, you see your 7 and then your 5, reducing your 3, 2 into your 5, and your 7, that gives you your 12. Flipped opposite. Remember I told you it's a mirrored reality. You have your 777 and your 21 blackjack. Also, interestingly enough, they called these Kates, and you'll find looking at this that this is not what they claim it to be. But besides that, Kate goes into the idea or the name Kate and how those letters break down into numbers, and that's for a different subject. But it goes into modern times, reflecting into the false Windsor family, which is nothing more than the Tudor extraction that goes all the way back to Richard III, who was actually and became Henry VII. All right, and that whole War of Roses was a hoax. So the Windsor family is in fact the one currently ruling the roost, is in fact imposters.
What you now hear is not a tactic maneuver now. This is not a maneuver. We're being attacked. It's an air raid.
The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December the 7th, 1941, here dramatically shot by Japanese film crews for propaganda purposes, not only crippled America's Pacific fleet, it changed the course of history.
Okay, go ahead and watch that again, keeping in mind that this is nothing but spliced together images that could be anywhere and are anywhere. You'll see that the one boat they show is in the middle of the water, the second is against the pier. The fact that there's the dramatic showing of the so-called pilot with the canopy open, it's a little bit too much, wouldn't you say? If this doesn't get you, don't worry, I have a couple more.
What you now hear is not a tactic maneuver now. This is not a maneuver. We're being attacked. It's an air raid.
The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December the 7th, 1941, here dramatically shot by Japanese film crews for propaganda purposes, not only crippled America's Pacific fleet, it changed the course of history. Just the day before the raid, President Roosevelt had personally appealed to Emperor Hirohito not to drag their two.
Once again, you see submerged explosives being used away from the ships, and they are not being dropped from any planes. This is all just a big hoax.
Just the day before the raid, President Roosevelt had personally appealed to Emperor Hirohito not to drag their two countries into war. But it was too late. Japan had formed a secret pact with Germany to attack the Allied forces in Europe and in the Far East. America at that stage was neutral, but generally sympathetic to the Allied cause. This.
Okay, if you still didn't see how fake that was, we're going to do the air raid on the airfield. This I'll slow down so you can see how fake it is. You can't deny this.
Was an attempt to destroy American military power in the Pacific before she could strike back.
Okay, I'm going to slow it down for you so you can just see what you just thought you just saw, which was nothing but doll houses being blown up. That's right, doll houses, models. Yeah, I went ahead and muted this. We're just going to take it through real slow, nice and easy, alright? You're going to see that this is not Pearl Harbor. This isn't, in fact, this is a movie set. This is how they used to do it with a small model village on a board, and then you'll do your flying from above. It'll make it look like, you know, you're at a distance. Please keep in mind when you come up to the fake scene on the airstrip, notice the explosions are not real explosions. They're sparklers and all kinds of nonsense. When you see the buildings supposedly blowing up, you'll see the windows just straight popping out. Popping out because it's a hoax. Okay, I've slowed this down so you can quite obviously see that these are just toy buildings. Watch the windows pop out in front. This is animation going back to what, Davy and Goliath kind of stuff. Is it Davy and Goliath? What was that show? Davy and the dog. I thought it was Davy and Goliath. But it looks like it's freaking ridiculous, man. Look at that. Look at the windows popping out. What is, toothpicks? Man, it's pretty embarrassing that this was this. Look at this. This is embarrassing. Anybody believe this was real is embarrassing. Nobody looked. I guess nobody looked. Did nobody watch this tape?
After this massive attack, Europe's war became America's, as Senator Connolly, chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, made abundantly plain.
With unbelievable treachery and craftiness, Japan has attacked our territory and murdered American citizens. Japan began this war in treachery. We shall end it in victory.
Oh yeah, well, what I meant to say was that nobody died, nobody got hurt at the Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, Papa, Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Japanese forces. Nobody died, nobody got hurt because they didn't show up.
That's pretty good, pretty good. That'd be better than what he said. Okay, one more time.
Okay, nobody died, nobody got hurt at Pearl Harbor. Have a good night.